So we've got our underpainting. It's dry. I think that trying to think about the background and, you know, is there anything we want to do to the background? It's also in shadow. We could do some shadow around here, and could also do that later. So, but keep thinking about that. Do we want to do any shadow? So the next thing that I want to do is bring in some color. And I've been using, I tend to like kind of a sunburnt look. She doesn't have that look in this photo. She's got peachy, pinky, kind of softer tones, but I don't know. So for me and my creativity, I use the colors that I'm comfortable using, and I tend to use the same color palette all the time. And there are certain places that I like to lay the color, so it might not necessarily be the same as what's in the photograph. So I'm going to use my reds and oranges that are over here on this side of the palette, and I'm cleaning it up. So again, this is stained, so what you're seeing here is stain. That's not paint, that's stain. So if we want to stay kind of purples and pinks, we're going to have to get some warm tones in there as well, but I think what I'm going to start with is continuing with some cool. And what I like to do is, as I'm talking, I'm going to come back over here to my Payne's blue-gray, and I'm going to add some alizarin crimson red. It's a cool red, and I'm going to add that over here, and it's going to give me a nice purple. So the more red you add to it, the brighter it will be. But I think I'm going to start with some purple. And I'm going to put some of that up in her ear, in the inner ear here, and I'm going to not use very much because I'm going to build, I want to build up, but I'm kind of going over and outside of where I have the Payne's blue-gray. So that's going to give me some layering effects. What I like to do is put some color on and then come back with a wet brush and move it around where I want it to be. And I'm going to blot a little bit out of here. Oh, make sure your tissue is clean, because mine wasn't, and I just got debris on it, or you can get paint on it from another painting. So I'm going to get a clean piece of paper there. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. So whereas in the beginning I didn't take the Payne's blue-gray all the way to the pencil line, I am now. And then I'm using my wet brush to drag that around. And I want it a little bit darker in the top than in the bottom. I'm kind of dabbing. And then I'm going to come over here and kind of smooth out those lines a little bit and dab away some paint that I don't want. So even though that paint's been on there for a minute drying, it's still kind of on top of the paper, and I can just get it wet and lift it right off. So don't be afraid to play with the watercolor and feel like you're gonna get stuck with it. It's a lot easier than you might think. Alright, so where else might she have some pink tones? Maybe on her, or purpley, maybe on her eyelid, under her eye for sure. Maybe in some of the same shadow. She's got some pink on her cheek here. So I went ahead and just painted over that whole bit of shadow with the Payne's gray. That gave it a little bit of a purple tone. Maybe put some color in her eyes. She's got some color here. You can see that in the painting. Oh, my cat's crying. He wants to go outside. And then she's got some bit of pink where I have this shadow here. Kind of like that whole eye socket, how it comes down. And then her jawline on this side. And I'm noticing I've got some pretty hard lines over here with the paint, so I'm coming in with some water. I want to soften that a little bit. I might have left it too long to get it soft as I would like, but that's okay. Getting the edges wet and then lifting some of that color off. A little bit on the neck there. Okay, I'm going to get a smaller brush now for the lip, so I'm going to use my 4. And I'm going to try to not get my hand in the wet part of the neck, and I'm kind of doing some arced lines on her lips. Remember what I said about leaving some white space, or, you know, creating, not covering it up entirely. Alright, and I'm going to put a little bit of pink, or whatever this purpley color is, over the bridge of her nose. Not the bridge, but kind of like where it rounds. Just trying to give it a little bit of a shape. And then I like to do, and we'll color these a little bit more as we go on, but I like to do my nostrils pink or red, and nose, chin. So like this is kind of the end of her nose. Might make that a little bit pinker. And I'm noticing I've drawn her face, I think, a bit more square than in the photo. I think her photo is a little bit more oblong, and for me that tends to be something I do naturally. And I had an art teacher tell me once that we paint ourselves into our paintings, and so I think I have a somewhat of a square jaw, and so I think that that's what happens. I'm not sure, but it's just something interesting to think about. Do you notice that you tend to draw anything in particular or draw a certain way, and notice that it is related to your face at all? So there's a little bit of an indent there, and you can even barely see some bone structure, kind of shadowy here. And again, I try to keep most of my lines as soft as possible until I want the hard lines. And I think just for some cohesion, I'm going to put a little bit of this purple in the eyebrow, just to have a little bit of color in there besides the gray, Payne's gray. And you'll notice here I've done a broken line, kind of a little bit of a squiggle or a shape, just to get some light in there in the eyebrow so it's not solid. I'm also, when we get to the detail, so think, you know, kind of plan ahead when you're working on your painting. Right now her eyes are staring, it looks like they're staring, well, at least I think they're staring in the same direction. Sometimes that's a challenge, but I want the eyelid to be more relaxed, and so I have this gray tone in here because we have a shadow on our eyeball from our eyelid, and so I'm going to keep that gray shadow, but I'm going to drop the eyelid from where my pencil line is to make her eye look a lot more relaxed, and that will help give her some of that attitude maybe. I think I'll put a little bit of pink or purple, whatever this color is, under here, just a little bit. Because what I want to differentiate is the where that chin line is from her neck. And I think I'm actually going to go ahead and put that in now. Let's see, that might be too wet. Maybe I'll wait. So we have a lot of cool colors in here right now, and it would be good to warm it up a little bit. And so now I'm going to take my I think I'm going to use my transparent oxide. Let me see. Hang on. Hang on. Be aware too, if you're going to mix colors, it's always good to try things out before you put them on your paper, because you might get a color that you don't want. So I'm going to try, not that, I'm going to use my transparent red oxide. It's a little orangey, and I think it looks good with the blue gray, and I'm going to put that around her eyes. So some of what I'm doing at this point is just how I like to paint. So I'm still using the reference photo to show me where certain colors are, but might not be the color that's in the painting or in the reference photo. It might be just how I want to use the tone. I think what I try to do most is not completely cover up the other color that I've already put down. So I left, in this instance here, let's see if I can tighten up on it a little bit. So on the eye, I have, you can still see the purple that we just did, the Payne's blue gray behind that. Now you can see the transparent red oxide And then below that you can see Payne's blue-gray again. So for me it's really trying not to cover up directly each color. I want every color to show through every layer every time. And sometimes that means I just put some color down and then I get my brush wet again and just use the water to move it to where I want it. It's really important to leave some white space periodically. So noticing where you have light. So I'm putting a little bit of that transparent red oxide on the nose because it's going to brighten it and bring it out and keep this shadow dark behind. I don't want a lot, but I want a little bit, and I want it to fade over into the other, kind of the center of the nose a little bit. Not a lot, just a little. And I'm going to put a little bit on the nose. So for me it's a lot about what color am I seeing. Colors also evoke emotion, so are you getting, you know, what color are you choosing? I'm switching back to a larger brush to carry up the face here. And put some on her forehead here. And so I'm really trying to leave this space white because that's where the light is in the photo. So also if you get too much water on there, just dry your brush off and wipe it off. And It just wipes right off. Alright, I'm going to go back to my small brush and I'm going to put a little bit just to get some color in here. Now that, the Payne's Blue Gray and this transparent red oxide will turn a little greenish if you're not careful. So if you are painting over some Payne's Blue Gray, just beware of if you accidentally activate the Payne's Blue Gray. You just don't want to do that. It'll turn a little green. Like this started to turn green here. But I can let it dry. There's enough there that it'll dry and it'll dry and I'm going to come back in and make that darker anyway. Alright, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to use my transparent red oxide and I'm coming back in and I'm putting some more on the lips. Again, I'm using kind of a lines instead of solid line. I'm not using solid lines, is what I'm trying to say. Alright, so I'm going to think about the ears too a little bit, and there is a little bit of some orangey in the iridescent part of the ear, so I think I am going to put a little bit in here. And also bring a bit of cohesion to from the face to the ears. Alright, so while that's drying, we're going to take a break. So I encourage you again, take a break, step away, clean your water, fold your laundry, get some tea, whatever you need to do, and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes, and we're going to go in with some darks again.